which leads right back to the Knights of Malta, which leads back to Pat Buchanan, that Knight of Malta, a Jesuit trained at Georgetown, along with Tom Bearden, that CIA officer for many years. So he was getting a little bit too close. He knew it. He thought he could get away with it being a representative in Congress, and so they shot him down with a Korean flight. So he was getting too patriotic. He was getting too nationalistic, and so they removed him and put somebody else in his place.
Now, Eric, can you touch upon Project Megiddo?
I'm not quite familiar with it. If you'd remind me something about it or some ties, I might be able to add something to it.
To me, it reminds me of this document that came out recently about the whole Ron Paul movement and how everyone is suspect as far as being Christian right-wing extremists, kind of like a COINTELPRO kind of a scenario. And it appears that Larry Pratt was involved with that, as well as the Council for Inter-American Security.
Mm-hmm. So that they're calling the people that followed Ron Paul some right-wing people? Is that what they're doing?
Right, basically bringing them out in the open and exposing them, and basically a way of gathering, data mining these people who have the mentality of small government, sovereign type of mentality, and it's Project Megiddo is a way to pull people out.
Makes perfect sense. So this is exact purpose for Alex Jones.
Yes, let's talk about that.
So that's his purpose.
Alex Jones a little bit, yeah.
His whole purpose is to bring out those who would be serious resistors to the coming fascist police state, so they can be marked and tagged and named, and then paralyzed with fear, because one of Jones' tactics is to put people in fear. And when you're in fear, you can't think. So even though the vast majority of what he says on a low level is absolutely true, he never leads you to the proper conclusion. He'll never tell you about the Knights of Malta running the Bilderbergers, like the Queen. She's a Dame of Malta. And so the whole idea is to leave you in limbo, but now you're exposed, and what do you do? Who do you follow? Who do you vote for? And he promotes men like Ron Paul and others who are phonies.
Well, he won't even mention the name Joseph Rettinger.
Yeah, Joseph Retton, he won't mention that name? That Jesuit and high-level Freemason that helped found the Bilderbergers?
Yeah,
that advisor to Winston Churchill, that wicked sinner? No, he won't mention him. That makes sense.
And, Rettinger is also known as the Gray Eminence, like in between the Black Pope and the White Pope.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's what he was.
The Bilderbergers, aren't those the current incarnation of the Council of St. John?
That's right. Prince Bernhard was a Knight of Malta. And, of course, you have Kissinger. He's another Knight of Malta. He's another advisor to the Pope. Kissinger has always been a Nazi. Dear personal friend of Alexander Haig, another Knight of Malta, whose brother Francis Haig is a powerful Jesuit priest and is a physicist.
Okay.
Yeah.
Have you heard of the Council of 56 of the Religious Roundtable?
No, I haven't.
Okay, I've got a link here talking about the CNP membership. And it's Dr. Gary North, CNP Board of Governors, 1982, President of Institute of Christian Economics and publisher of Christian Reconstruction, member of the Council of 56 of the Religious Roundtable, Y2K alarmist extraordinaire, bang. Never
Makes sense.
Dr. Gary North before.
Oh, yeah, Gary North is a very well-written author. I have a couple of his books. Considered right-wing, considered conservative. But we have to remember, whenever we see that term roundtable, always think of the Knights Templars.
Yes.
Always think of Crusaders.
I think of the whole concept of King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table. I think
absolutely
terminology exists today.
Absolutely. So whenever you have you remember the Nazis up at the castle that they had in Germany, Wewelsburg. They had a huge table, a huge round table, and all the top SS generals, there were 12 of them, had their own high-back chairs with their names engraved in silver in each one of their chairs, and they sat around this huge round table as they would speak with Himmler at the head. So they were Teutonic Knights. The SS was the revival of the Teutonic Knights, so they would use the round table. So whenever you see that, always think of Papal Crusaders. And the Teutonic Knights, remember, were the Germans. It was reserved only for Germans to be in the Teutonic Knights, as they were crusading on behalf of the papacy.
Now, what is the World Council of Churches? What is their main?
The World Council of Churches, their purpose is to unite all the Protestant branches back under the arm of Rome, and thus to destroy the Protestant Reformation. And they have succeeded. The World Council of Churches, I believe, meets in Bern, Switzerland. Switzerland is always a hotbed for ecumenicalism. Yes. And the Pope is very well thought of in those circles of the World Council of Churches. Mm-hmm.
And then you got the Swiss Guard that guards Vatican City.
That's exactly right. So they have the Swiss Guard there. In fact, it wasn't long ago that the head of the Swiss Guards supposedly committed suicide, but I believe he was murdered along with his wife. So something was going on in the Vatican. That's something you might want to look into. I know I need to check that out some more. But the Swiss Guards are some of the most highly trained guards in the world. They're all martial artists. They're all excellent with any kind of weapon. And so the Pope has the most money and the most teachers around the world to teach these men to be the best bodyguards.
Yeah, they do the same three-finger pledge that the Guard of the Caesar used to do. The old Roman troops, yeah, the same three-finger pledge. And I think it's very funny looking back into the Nazi Party, how it seems like they were tied at the hip as well to the Vatican Church. And,
well, of course.
We have pictures of cardinals and German troops doing three-finger pledges to the cardinals and the Pope and everything. And just kind of, I think a lot of people aren't aware of that. Can you speak on that a little bit?
Yes, the Nazis were brought to power by one man primarily, Franz von Papen. You always want to remember that name, Franz von Papen. He was a Knight of Malta. Franz von Papen was the vice chancellor with Hitler. Franz von Papen was the Joe Biden for Hitler. And he brought him to power, saw him all the way through it. Franz von Papen was there speaking with Hindenburg when Hindenburg finally consented to make Hitler chancellor. I have it in the story of I Was Hitler's Doctor by Kurt Kruger. It's all there. And so Franz von Papen was a major player throughout the Third Reich, and when he's prosecuted at Nuremberg, he's one of 3 people that is acquitted. The other one being Horace Greeley-Schock, which was outrageous too. So he's released and he lives a happy life, and I think he dies in the late 1960s. But the man you want to remember that helped to bring Hitler to power was Franz von Papen, Knight of Malta, and the other one is Eugenio Pacelli. Eugenio Pacelli was the papal nuncio to Bavaria at the time, and if you read the book La Popessa by Paul I. Murphy, she tells the issue of the time when Hitler met with Pacelli there in Bavaria, and Pacelli encouraged him to resist the communists and gave him a bag of money. And then as Pacelli, who with Franz von Papen, enters into the Reich Concordat in 1933, and in entering to the Reich Concordat in conjunction with the Enabling Act, all the priesthood, priests and bishops and archbishops in Germany were absolutely forbidden to speak against the Third Reich pursuant to the Concordat. And that Concordat is still in effect today in Germany. It was never done away.
Wow.
And if you read Heinz Honey's work, Order of the Death's Head, was written in 1966, he will tell you there that Himmler modeled the SS after the Jesuit order, and Himmler considered himself to be the Jesuit general, and the high SS generals were his assistants.
I want to get into a little bit about Helena Blavatsky in a little bit, but Eric, are you ready to take a call?
Sure, be happy to.
Okay, we got a caller with 321 area code.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead, caller.
This is Eric.
Hi, Eric.
This is Nick.
Hi, Eric.
Hi. I had a few things that it's a great show, by the way.
Thanks. Thank you.
I got a few things that you guys have been talking about that you guys might find interesting.
Good. Go ahead.
Okay, you mentioned about Alexander Haig's brother, right? Frank Haig.
Yes.
He's a Jesuit priest.
Yes.
Did you know that he was a professor of emeritus of physics at Jesuit Loyola University?
Which Loyola? Chicago?
Hang on just a second. I can tell you. Maryland.
Oh, okay.
College in Maryland.
Loyola College in Maryland. Okay.
Professor Emeritus of Physics, which I think would be really cool if a lot of 9/11 truthers sent, their physics theories to him and get his take on it. That would be very interesting. Great
point. Very good. I met a Jesuit coadjutor over here at the novitiate here in Newmanstown. He knows Frank Hague, and he did tell me he was a physicist, but he didn't tell me where he was at. So, thanks so much for that connection to Loyola College in Maryland. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Also, the Supreme Court justice that's just been nominated by Obama.
Yes.
Sonia Sotomayor.
Yes.
She graduated Cardinal Spellman High School, valedictorian.
Yes. Yes, sir. And also, she was an acting assistant to the district attorney there in New York County to Robert Morgenthau. And Robert Morgenthau is one of the Archbishop's court Jews who refuses to do any investigation into the pedophile ring in New York City that's run by the Archbishop. And the source for this information is the detective in New York City who arrested Frank Sturgis, who was his name eludes me right now, but he knew Robert Morgenthau quite well. Jim Rothstein was the private he was an investigator in New York City for many years, and he was told, you either stop investigating the pedophile ring or you're going to die. So that's when he resigned. And that was the end of his tenure there in the New York PD department as a detective. But he arrested Frank Sturgis, one of the Kennedy assassinations, and he was the one that said Cardinal Spellman was one of the most corrupt, evil, wicked people that they ever investigated. And he was the one who wrecked Bruce Ritter's house there. He had a halfway house of something that he had. Drove Bruce Ritter right out of the town and made his life miserable. But Robert Morgenthau refused to do any investigation, and this is who this woman worked for several years.
Speaking of JFK, I got another good one for you.
Okay.
Another Jesuit priest brother was the head of the Secret Service at the time of JFK's assassination, James J. Rowley.
That's right.
Yes, Francis Rowley.
Francis Rowley. Yeah. Where did you find that? I found that in the Truman.
If you Google search James Rowley, R-O-W-L-E-Y plus Jesuit, you'll see an article, an interview with James J. Rowley himself. It's the first link at Spartacus something, and he admits that his brother is a Jesuit priest, had been for like 7 years when JFK was killed, and he what else there? They grew up in the Jesuit Fordham neighborhood, and he mentions William O'Donovan's name to the person interviewing him, like he knew William O'Donovan as well.
Makes perfect sense. And by the way,
Abraham Bolden was the first black Secret Service agent that JFK forced the Secret Service to hire. And he thwarted the attempts in Chicago just weeks before the Dallas one, and then they increased the pressure, forced him out of the Secret Service, and then what happened. Secret Service stood down. All the Secret Service agents were getting drunk the night before against protocol, yada, yada, yada.
That's right. And Abraham Bolden was prosecuted, and he was sent to prison, I think, for 6 years. He's written a book. He's written a recent book, and I contacted him, and I asked him to come on my program, but he declined. But he would be an interesting guy to have on, and his connection in exposing that. Yeah.
Also, you spoke about Alex Jones and Sean Hannity. I got a nice connection for both of them right here. If you go to SeanHannity.com, you will see that GCN is promoting on SeanHannity.com via Midas Resources. You will see 2 or 3 links that pop up in 2 or 3 places, Midas Resources. And if you hover over the link, you will see that it redirects through Clear Channel.
Yes.
Wow.
And then when you click on the Midas Resources link, it takes you to GCNLive.com.
Is that right?
And it's a Hannity web page, so it's not just some random thing that they're doing. This is set up on GCN Live's end as well. And somebody told me when they went to the tax protests, they heard on Sean Hannity's program plugs for Alex Jones's show.
Yeah, definitely.
Talk about Clear Channel real quick. Let me hear about that.
What's that?
Well, give us a little history about Clear Channel and where they're at today. Who owns them? I thought Mitt Romney was about to buy them.
I don't know much about that. Maybe the caller can tell us more about it, but I don't know much.
Oh, I haven't heard anything about that. I just know that they're